Okay, hello. I was just waiting for um, YouTube to load up a little bit because on some videos, when you do a live, the front bit is cut off. So I was just waiting a couple of seconds. So hello and welcome. Um, so basically, this is going to be a roundup for this year. And since we're at the midpoint of the 2020s, I thought I might do a summary of 2020 to 2021, how life has treated me and where I am right now. So, okay, that's all that can hear me. Um, in 2021, I had a mental breakdown, and now that I've gotten a lot better, I'm able to retrace my steps and find the root cause of why that happened. Basically, it was because of very bad people didn't treat me well, and other factors on based on the places I used to work. I think maybe I wasn't aware, or yeah, I think I wasn't aware of the treatment I was getting because that was the first time I'd ever been put in that situation. And in my second job, it was blatant, but in my first job, where this happened, it wasn't blatant; it was more psychological. And now that I'm thinking back, I'm kind of putting the pieces together because for the last 4 years, I've been living a haze. And right now, compared to how I was when I referred myself into hospital a couple of weeks ago, I think it's a month now, I'm a lot calmer because there was in more of a fight mode than flight mode. I was always confrontation and everything because of what I was going through. Basically, the reason I put myself in hospital again where people could take care of me, but having full capacity is because, okay, let me start from the beginning. Basically, there was a night towards the end of September where I had a supernatural encounter. And this supernatural encounter was totally dismissed by the medical professionals because of they thought it was in my head. But this isn't the first time in my life that I've had spiritual encounters. Even before I moved to this country, the UK, back home, spiritual encounters or supernatural phenomenon were a daily, were something that happened and everybody had ways of coping, either through a pastor, through a church, or through a traditional doctor. And people would usually go there because it was tangible and real, and no medical professional can tell me otherwise because this is practically history. An example I can give is we used to have a phenomenon happening when I was a little girl, before my brothers were born, in the house we used to live, where you'd find as if the door had been opened in the middle of the night and you had people who'd been walking around. And we would feel as if people were watching us at night and basically things moving around. And you can't explain, medicine can't explain away that. And we used to live in a genuinely haunted house when I was about, I think, 9 or 10, in a place called Wansha in Zambia. The house was genuinely haunted, even confirmation from my father. There's no way our entire family were all hallucinating the same phenomenon, the same haunted activity, because he too confirmed that it was a haunted house, even though we lived there. So this isn't my first wrangle or tangle with the supernatural. Back home, people go to spiritual doctors to get rid of people astral projecting into their houses, demonic activity, devil activity, witchcraft and sorcery, or they go to pastors for full house deliverance, full house cleansing, and all of that. And that is the environment I was brought up in. And in Africa, it's like it happens. The West, I don't know medical wise, they would dismiss it, but in Africa, they'd say it's a possibility because It is integrated in our culture. So this time, the first time I had a mental breakdown, I had no capacity. I reverted to what, based on my understanding right now, was my um, 9-year-old or 8-year-old self or 7-year-old self, based on my perception of reality or delusions, because I had psychosis then, and COVID just made everything worse. My What I thought was happening was the rapture, because I remember after watching the movie Left Behind, I had a fear of the rapture, and I remember back in the day, um, people used to say that once the 2000s hit, that would be the end of the world, and that was an anxiety point for me because the movie left a lot of fear and anxiety in me. People disappearing, kind of matches with COVID. And I don't know where this came from. I honestly don't remember. All I know is for the longest time, I was behaving like my childhood self in my actions, in my thought pattern, in my behavior, clinging on to my mother and father, crying, being scared the way I was, because as a child I was easily anxious and easily scared by scary movies. Ironically, what shirt I'm wearing. I don't like scary movies. I kind of bought this shirt accidentally on Temu, and I kind of like it now. It's kind of cute. It's a cute version. I mean, I'd watch the chibi version of all these characters, as long as it was made cute or not as graphic or scary. Basically, I'm not good with horror movies, but I like this chibi form. I'd be okay with that. Anyway, I diverted there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I had reverted back to my childlike self. I don't know if that was a way of coping after all the stress I'd been put through since 2020, because um, I don't know. I think the behavior of my colleagues in my first place of work, not my first official job, but the first place of work where all of this affected me, changed when I think I told one of my colleagues that I'd be going into a school, I'd be teaching in a school as a teaching assistant, and all of a sudden their behavior changed. And even I think there was a form of documentation that got the attention of the manager then, and you could tell by their behavior they wanted to say something good or to, I don't know, train me to be a higher or senior care or something. I don't know. All I know is their behavior was more like wanting to say something but in a good light. And after that, I started having some colleagues like following me whenever I'd be doing work and whispers that I was making things up because of my documentation. When in actuality, I was just doing something that was common sense and something that got the attention of someone. And speaking to a healthcare professional yesterday, she just said there's some people who, no matter what you do, especially if you start to shine, will always be hateful because they prefer to be in the limelight. And when you show a little bit of your intelligence or your persons, because I was a very introverted person, and when I went to work, I'd focus on my work. I wouldn't talk about my personal life, and I'd keep my personal life to myself because I had bad experiences in my first job where I disclosed my life, and well, not really, somewhat, but not extremely. I just kept myself to myself and only shared my personal life with the staff members or people I consider friends now, who I knew would be respectful and wouldn't start divulging my activities or personal life to just any Jim and Jack or gossip malicious wise. And all I know is that whenever I'd be documenting, I'd have someone following me. I'm not stupid. I love the job that I did. I was a healthcare assistant, and I know that incorrect documentation will get you in trouble making things up. But I did my best based on what I was taught in sixth form. I was taught a lot of things. I did English Lit, I did Art and Design, I did AutoCAD, I did media studies. I had to analyze things like essays upon essays, and I just applied what I was taught there in my work. And apparently, that didn't board well with some people. They started making malicious talk and psychologically messing with me. I didn't recognize it because I was so focused on my work, but it had an impact. And there were only a handful of people who literally helped me grow into a competent and well rounded healthcare assistant. The others were just there for pretenses, and it hurts. I think I was too trusting and too naive in my way of thinking back then. Everybody goes to work for a job, but that facade they put up when they're nice to you, they only want what they want, and when they get it, they push you to the side. And when you actually start to do your work in a way that's kind of raises eyebrows, even though it's basic, they start getting butthurt because they're not the ones doing the work, or they undermine you because I think they undermined me because I was an introvert. I hardly ever talked. I talked obviously when I did my work and I talked to the residents, but other than that, I usually kept to myself. I was very quiet. I've always been quiet um, ever since I was 13. I think that was also based on trauma and um, also moving to another country and not assimilating well and just in general being an introvert. But people took that as being an idiot, not knowing what you're doing or not having anything to offer because I was usually quiet and I'd go with the flow. I was easygoing. But when I actually started not putting an effort, but actually thinking outside the box, that rubbed people the wrong way. And then when I dis- disclosed like my news to a colleague who I trusted, that even made things worse. It was a learning experience and has been. Then I went to a place that was even worse: office politics, favoritism, and isolation. Asking for help, but going on deaf ears. The worst place I've ever worked in my entire life, and it nearly made me give up my love for teaching. Because I still want to do teaching, but right now, for the immediate future, I would like to go back to healthcare because I was the happiest I've ever been. I've always been the happiest taking care of people, mostly on the mental health ward. Palliative, I mean, there are times where you would have to take care of people who are dying. And maybe then might have been okay with it. Not now. Can't do that. But mental health, I have a reason to do that because I've walked through it. I've experienced it. I've experienced good healthcare. Good people have taken care of me in my most vulnerable state, and bad people who didn't take care of me in a vulnerable state. People are paid to do that, but there are people who love what they do, and others who just go there for the money as an easy job to them, or a hard job that they can just neglect. As long as they get paid at the end of the month, it's just another job. But you're dealing with vulnerable individuals, and they do remember how you treat them. Because right now, my memories are coming back to me, even though I was really vulnerable for the longest couple of years, all these 4 years. We're heading to 5 next year. I couldn't remember how badly I was treated. In the first place, I was taken to for support in mental health hospital. And it's taken 4 years for me to figure out, or for people to tell me that it was a mental health institution. All I knew it was bleep 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 ward. I didn't even know it was hospital because the doctors and the healthcare professionals just kept saying blah 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 name ward. I didn't realize it was an extension because of I didn't realize that it was an extension of the hospital, but mental health division, because based on my understanding, no one told me. And based on what happened the first time, they cannot use COVID as an example. That's even more reason to be on the ball. But I was shipped there in the middle of the night, extremely confused, had extreme delirium, and my perception of reality was that of the end of the world. And the movies, plus the teachings that were going on back in the day, the end of the world talk was rampant. And they'd be descriptive uh, sermons about what would happen: dragons, demons, devils, and I was expecting that, going to hell, and all of that. And that was what I perceived reality was at that time because of COVID. COVID did not resonate. I thought COVID was the rapture. I thought we'd been left behind, and the people there were circulating Christians to persecute them. And so, obviously, I was in a paranoid state, in a panicked state. I couldn't trust anybody. But instead of talking to me to find out what was going on, he just lumped me in a room and did not talk to me. For 3 days, I would cry my eyes out from morning to evening till I went to sleep. No, it wasn't 3 days, it was 4 days. And no one explained anything. They didn't do a items check. They didn't sit me down and explain that, oh, you're here or you're there. Or maybe if they did at the beginning, I wasn't receptive. And the doctors were so rude and so unempathetic. On the first night, instead of what being calm and being understanding that this person is in a vulnerable, extreme vulnerable state, and my actions will affect how they perceive reality, because they knew before they admitted me that this case has what? Delirium or whatever. And I was extremely confused. If I had been in the street, I would have been kidnapped because I would have gone with any Jim and Jack. I would have gone around panicking, screaming my heart out, and being a liability to like innocent people. But the night that I was referred to the mental health ward, no one told me anything. They offered me a cup of tea. They asked for my parents' information, as if I would know. I was literally not sure where I was, what was going on, and I thought it was the end of the world. And here they're offering me biscuits and all of that. I mean, that was nice. Asking for my parents' information, I couldn't tell them because of my perception, they were bad guys. And then they took me to the office for the doctor to draw blood. And obviously, I had this whole perception of what the whole world had ended and all of these were evil. And I couldn't express that. I was scared. And I couldn't help it because I was thinking in the state of a literal child. And the doctor, instead of being understanding and saying we'll continue this tomorrow, she was so irritated and angry at the patient who didn't know what on earth was going on. And that hurt. I felt like I was the problem when I was there to fix the problem. And when I was sent there for people who could help me get back to normal and deal. And after that, sent to my room, no explanation of what's going on, continual confusion. It's like they had to dumb it down and explain to a 10, like a 8, what did I say? Maybe 7, 8, 9 year old. I was literally in the mental state of a 9 year old. And this is what I have to, these are the blanks I have to fill in to, the therapist, obviously, because I'm getting, talk therapy support. But together with this, a bunch of traumatic events from my childhood have surfaced up, explaining some of my behavior towards people and what I've been going through um, in combination with my mental health. I don't know why everything's flooding in this year, but I feel the best I've felt in years. And I had to argue with doctors this year. I've been a very argumentative person this year. Because if I wasn't argumentative or fighting for my mental health, I'd still be in a dilapidated state. Because I honestly believe I've been on the wrong medication for years. Fogginess, can't think straight, forgetfulness, stiff body. My life was literally in a stagnant state. Even if I was volunteering, each day was a struggle. There were some good days, there were some bad days. But I wasn't the same. I was continually sick in comparison to how I am now. I am a lot calmer than I was the last couple of months, in all honesty. But it's been a fight mode from January, telling the doctors to change my medication because it wasn't working. I kept singing the same song, but they kept saying no. And that was a doctor who I didn't agree with. And I really had to have a row with him, and he referred me to another doctor because he didn't like me for arguing with him and telling him continually that this medication I'm on isn't working. Put me on something else. And he kept in a dismissive or non-concerned way, oh, there are other medications out there which you can put you on. Instead of being specific and telling me my options, he just waved his hand and in an ambiguous manner, telling me there are other medications we can put you on, but he's still stuck on the same one I was on. And then I was like, no. And I thought I was talking there. I don't know if it cut, but I said a lot. I pray it didn't cut. Anyway, if it did, just to cover what I said, I had a bad experience the first time I was taken to a mental health institute. I didn't know where I was. No one explained anything. They didn't even do a property check. And when they did a property check, they found like I had razors in my pocket because I was rushed. I have like a beard here and a beard down here, which I usually wax or shave. And that was probably why I had the razors in my pocket because I was rushed out and I think it was nighttime when I was ready to go and bath and wanting to shave. And my clothes were in the bathroom with me. But because I was in a dire state, I took the razors with me. It shows the negligence of the people then. If I were in a severe panic state, I would have used those things. God forbid, and I would never. But if I were worse and I felt, because I was, apparently I was hallucinating too. Or, based on my panic state, yeah, no, I wasn't hallucinating. It's just my perception of reality was different. But they wrote hallucinating and hearing things. Basically, I think that was the medical side of I wasn't hallucinating. I was hearing things. That was the main thing. But they categorized it as hallucination, delirium. Maybe delirium is hallucination. I don't know. It's confusion. Whatever. Basically, if you're in that dire state, there should be someone with you. I don't even know if I had a one-to-one, or even if they didn't explain anything. When you're dealing with a fragile individual, you're supposed to sit them down and not assume there's no capacity when you do not even take the time to assess or talk to them. To just shove them in a room and let them figure things out. I was in a severe vulnerable state. I did not know where I was. Nobody told me anything. We didn't have a discussion, or even if they did, I didn't what wasn't receptive. They should have said it again when they saw me crying for 4 days straight. Morning and evening, I wanna go home. I don't know where I am. I want to go home, and they deemed that as confusion when in actuality they didn't say anything. Or even if they did, because of my state, I didn't perceive it. They should have sat me down, but it took 4 days for continual crying to the point where I made myself sick. And even fluids. Instead of telling me we've got some water in your room for you to drink, they were just shoving it there. And I've seen healthcare carers who do this in healthcare where I used to work. They'll just put a drink in the room and say the patient hasn't drank anything. When in actuality, all they needed was encouragement, or they weren't aware that it was there, or they're stressed out. You have to assess the situation based on your observation. But people do not take the time to do that, and I was hurt. I had about 4 cups. I don't even know. Yeah, 4 cups, I think, accumulated. No one said anything that you've got fluids in your room. Go have a drink. All they did was watch and assume, well, she hasn't got capacity. Well, she's confused. You're supposed to, anyone with common sense, if you see you crying to the point of where you make yourself sick and you look horrid, they would sit you down. So what is the matter? What is wrong? Why are you crying? And talk to you and find out exactly what is stressing you out instead of leaving you to cry your eyes out. The person is confused. Well, let them be. Are you going to let a confused person just cry their eyes out for 4 days straight? That is horrible. And make themselves sick. Day one, if it's morning to evening, you would sit down with them, find out what exactly is going on. Day two. But no one did that. Not even on day one, not day two, not day three, not day four. Until I healed up myself. I don't even know how that worked. Until I grasped the situation on my own, that I was in a hospital. And it took 4 days. But 4 days they were just watching me cry my eyes out. From morning to evening. I couldn't eat any food because I was confused. Even picking food was like a chore. A hard decision. And I remember one nurse in particular, a nurse, literally got angry because I couldn't make up my mind on what I wanted to eat. And apparently I was being too slow. And then she just took random food and in this angry tone. You're the patient there. No empathy. No consideration of how your actions affect the person who is in dire need of what? Reassurance and a delicate touch. And I remember. People think you don't remember, but I remember now. It's been 4 years. And because I couldn't remember then, I couldn't complain. All I can share is my what? Worst experience in like a mental health ward. There are very evil people out there, and it just made things worse. I already had a bad experience in my two previous places of work. I know there was stress, but that's no excuse to mistreat people, especially the vulnerable, because they are even more stressed because of COVID, or we're more stressed because of the situation. No family to visit you, no one to reassure you. You're all on your own, and even the people that have left you on your own to your own devices to figure things out. Key points. No one explained where I was. Nobody reassured me. Left me crying my eyes out continually. As soon as I woke up, I was crying because I didn't know where I was and I was kept in a place. Obviously, it reinforced my belief that I was trapped or in prison because I was Christian and it was the end of the world and they were going to kill me. It reinforced that a lot. But it took 4 days on my own to figure out that, wait, this is a hospital. Even if it's the rapture, it is safe. I know I am safe. But I still believe that it was the rapture then. And I still didn't trust people. But all it would have taken was someone to explain, it's a pandemic. You are safe. Everybody's still here. Your family know that you're here, but no one said that until I started presenting well. That is when they came and what? Started explaining things. Or I don't even know if they're explaining, but just checking up on me, even checking up on me in the shower room. No one explained that you're one to one. I was in dire stress because no one said anything. Logged off in the middle of the night. Don't know where you're going. My parents were stressed, obviously. They couldn't what? Tell me what was going on because they left me in a crisis team. Scared. Oh, okay. Alright. Anyway, I'll continue this at a later date. So let's consider this as part one. I'm sorry if I was stressing out or getting heated a little bit. But my experience there the first time was not good. They cannot use COVID as an excuse. They were just bad. Anyway, see you later. Come up to the library. I'm doing well now. I'm almost back to normal, which is good. Yep. Oh, you're closed. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go.